Okay, good afternoon everybody and welcome to the DDLS webinar, DevOps, ITIL and Agile, Better Together. I'm Michael Crump, Marketing Manager here at DDLS, and I'll be your host and moderator for today's webinar. Before we get started, please keep in mind that we will have a question and answer session at the end of the presentation, but we do encourage you to enter your questions in the Q&A panel throughout the presentation. And for a greater experience, we do recommend that you use your full screen for the presentation. So our presenter today is Rose Dyson. Rose is DDLS's lead instructor for ITIL and DevOps and has more than 20 years experience in the industry. So without further ado, I will hand the presentation over to Rose.
Thank you, Michael. I hope everybody can hear me well. Thank you so much for joining me on this presentation. As usual, it's a little bit different when I don't have people in the room talking to the screen. It's a little bit challenging, and I always get a little bit tense when I do presentations anyway. All right, so thanks so much for coming. And yeah, as Michael said, 20 years experience that I confess to. In those 20 years, I have actually started as a Unix administrator. If you know what Unix is, you know that's not an easy job. Also network administration at some point, and some programming, some release management, project management, and service desk as well, and so on. So I had some experience, but in 2004, I did my ITIL Foundation exam, and since then I have been dedicated to ITIL and now DevOps and Agile. So as you can see on the screen, I'm an ITIL expert, Agile Service Manager, Practitioner, Agile Process Owner, also an advocate for DevOps, Scrum, and basically anything else that can help our customers have a better customer experience. All right, so today I actually put together, I'll bring it to you, present to you, a very common scenario based on real life situation. This scenario was actually kind of started sort of forming in the classroom itself with in the DevOps classroom. So I found very interesting that DevOps alone is not enough, and obviously ITIL alone is not enough, and then there is Agile in the middle of this. So I thought that there was a need to find in a scenario how these three models can come together to help us to deliver value and improve the customer experience on the services that we provide. So let me introduce you to the scenario itself, and I'm going to go through the scenario. I'm going to be also highlighting specific aspects of the challenge, and then after that I will present you the proposed solutions in terms of which components of those three models can actually help in that specific scenario, the challenges of this specific scenario. So I may actually suggest you to, if you want, to make a little list of the challenges you see there, and have your own version of how would you think that ITIL, DevOps, and Agile can help in those challenges that presented on the scenario itself. So you can do your own list, and then at the end of that, on the second part of the presentation, we can compare your list and my list and see if we cover the lot, or at least a significant amount of issues. All right, so let me paint you the scenario. Imagine this. I am the IT service manager for Apex Industries. I specifically look after shared enterprise IT services. So Apex has grown very quickly in the past 12 months. The manufacturing side of the company has expanded significantly, and now we have doubled the number of employees. In 10 months, the number of employees has doubled. Okay, so you have an idea of the situation there. Now, I'm going to be talking to you about the HR application specifically, but the scenario you're going to see could be applicable to any application. So in this situation, the HR application became quite critical to the business because of the very quick growth. So we had additional employees, we had to more records and transactions, and as you know, we just came, this is the beginning of a new financial year, so this scenario was 2 weeks ago, so very close to the end of the financial year as well. And you may or may not be aware that the ATO actually had some specific requirements for this single touch payroll or something like that. So that has generated a number of requests that we had to put into the system as well to comply with the ATO requirements. So a lot happening towards the end of the financial year for the HR department. Something else that you need to know is that in Apex, we actually have an internal HR application support team to maintain and develop the application. And we have a separate IT operations team to look after the on-premises infrastructure that actually enables or underpins the HR application itself. And also important for you to know that all the application teams in Apex run Agile, they work with Agile, and obviously that the IT operations team, they actually operate with ITIL. All right, so far a few characteristics to the scenario that you may actually see some familiarity of the scenario with your own situation, your own organization. So hopefully you're doing your little list there, and we can compare our lists a little in another few minutes. Okay, so a couple of months ago, something else that you also need to know is that the HR application team, actually process owner, resigned. And the position was filled internally by an experienced project manager. However, he was not an Agile project manager, he was a Prince project manager, and he's not very familiar with Agile itself. So that's the product owner for the application itself. So he's still kind of favoring the business requests and prioritization of that over the application team recommendations and the prioritization of some of the proactive work that probably needed to be done. So he's still familiarizing himself with Agile and how the team works and so on. But look, the development team, they work very well together. They have been working together for a while. So we thought that would be okay, but we have a few challenges there as well. So you can imagine how busy the application support team is at the moment with the additional number of employees and therefore more transactions, the end of the year activities and reporting and transactions and so on, and the ATO demands and the new product owner for the application. All right, so the applications team is struggling a little bit with the amount of work and the prioritization of the work as well. There is a bit of a problem with the priorities there. Of course, you can imagine that all these, the requirements, then all the work, all the extra demand is all high priority. Okay. So what happens is that the applications team actually put a business case forward, asking for 2 additional contractors, just for a period of time. So one contractor to help with as a technical lead, and the other one as a test lead, because the team identified that those are 2 areas that they felt that they were a little bit weak. So the technical lead and the test lead. However, all this work that the team is processing at the moment is all considered business as usual. Have you ever seen that before? And so the business case was declined because the work is business as usual, and the additional resource was considered to be project work, and just doesn't work. How do you call it? The budget doesn't work that way. So the business case did not succeed. So the team had to do with what they had. Okay, so consequently, one workaround was to change the priority of work on the backlog, and the applications team, then they had most of the maintenance work downgraded. The priority was downgraded, and consequently the features, the requirements, the priority of that work went up a little bit. So the maintenance work was just not happening. Then what do you think happened? Of course, when was that? 1 week actually before the end of the financial year, the application simply froze up. So everybody panicked. Nobody could do any work on the application. The HR department was a disaster. So everybody got to the HR manager, and the HR manager got on the phone. Can you see how sad he is over there? Oh my gosh, what am I gonna do? Looks familiar, right? So then nobody could do anything. He went to the IT online dashboard to see if there was any notification in relation to the application itself. And guess what happened? Can you guess? Who can guess what happened? Exactly. There was no notification on the dashboard. So nothing about the application itself, nothing that would indicate that, or related to the application. All right, so without any other options, what he did was get on the phone and call the service desk to ask for some urgent help. So unfortunately, the service desk said that the best they could do was to log a priority 1 incident and assign that immediately to the HR application support team. So imagine that he's panicking, there's so much work that has to be finalized, he has a deadline, and nobody can use the application simply halted. And just to be told that, oh, sorry, I can't help you, we have to send the incident to the other team, the development team, and they will get back to you within the next 30 minutes. So that's it, He was very frustrated, especially with that additional complication there, the 30 minutes. He did not have 30 minutes to waste. So anyway, he accepted the situation, but then he got on the phone for me. So a couple of phone calls happening there, right? So he called me and explained the situation. Obviously, I knew already what was going on. And I calmly explained to him, look, I understand the criticality of the issue, I understand the deadlines, and the only thing is that we are doing the very best we can with the resources and priorities that we have right now. Looks familiar? Hands up if you kind of been on similar situation. Yeah, oh, there you go. Lots of hands up. Excellent. All right. So the other thing that I had to very gently explain to him is that the HR department had agreed to this SLA. They had agreed that this SLA was suitable. So unfortunately, we had to do the very best we can, but within the constraints we had, but we had to manage our expectations very, very carefully. All right, so not happy. Okay, so this is Dan. Oh, sorry, Paul, actually. Paul is a senior member of the HR application team. He actually, once he got assigned the incident, he went into the system and he had a quick look and he confirmed that the application was actually fine, but he saw that the database were actually struggling. And that's why the application froze up, because of the database. All right, so I hope you're making your notes there. All right, so Paul actually made a call to the HR manager and had a quick chat, and that was within 20 minutes since the initial call to the service desk. So that was pretty good. And Paul asked the HR manager another couple of questions, and they then realized that it seems that the HR team, they were running a very inefficient report, and at the same time that they were making some massive updates to the database, with the new employees' records and so on, and for the HEO information as well. So the database was really struggling and being hammered with all that demand. All right, so apparently that's why the application halted. So nobody could have predicted that problem. which made the HR manager even more upset that the application team did not predicted this, did not protect from this situation, and did not test for this specific situation. That was very something that the HR manager was very upset with, that there was no test for this. So anyway, Paul apologized what he could do right now, right? So he apologized, and he actually suggested the HR manager to speak to the application product owner so that they could together then reprioritize the preventative work that is obviously needed. So Paul worked on the background with the IT operations team, and together they unlocked the database, and the application was restored within the 2 hours on the SLA. So from that point of view, from the service management and the service level management and so on, that was okay. But pretty obvious that the customer was not impressed. So Paul also may ask the HR manager to ask the staff, the HR team, to postpone running the report until after hours, and try to see if they could optimize the report to be a little bit more efficient. That would be the workaround until the applications team could actually fix the problem. So they were going to address this on the next maintenance sprint, which could be in about a month or two. Okay, so as a service manager, what I did was to call a post-implementation review. So meeting. So for that, I invited the product owner, the HR application product owner. I invited Paul as a senior representative of the applications team. I also invited the IT operations manager and the incident manager. And together we came up with a number of improvement initiatives. So pardon me, that's when I want to see, I'm going to show you a list of the issues that we have identified. And if you have been keeping track of that, let's see if this list matches yours. Here it is. So we have here just short of 20 different issues identified on this scenario. So we have more employees, therefore more transactions, increased capacity, increased demand, the ATO requirements and deadline. We have end of the year report. So obviously there is a demand and capacity issue happening here. We have an internal application support team running Agile. We have the IT operations team using ITIL on premise. And there is probably a communication issue here as well. And different practices. So we have the product owner coming from a waterfall background, not understanding Agile very well, therefore favoring the business requirements or the business requests rather than listening to the applications team. We had the request for 2 additional people, but the request was declined, so we are understaffed on the development team and super busy. And the downgrade on the priority of proactive work. So also they call the HR manager, meaning that a lot of things happening here, a lot of the communication happening here through phone calls. No notification on the dashboard about the application struggling or the degradation of the service. P1 being logged by the service desk itself and assigned to the applications team through the applications, through the service management incident tool. The 30 minutes response, obviously the SLA is not suitable for the new demands of the business. And the database issue not being related to the application, not being monitored. Inefficient reports running, massive records, more demand. Obviously, the development team could not have predicted this, so which makes me believe that the user stories, they were not as good as they should be. Consequently, the test was not as comprehensive as it could have been. And on top of this, as I mentioned, the dev team did not do any monitoring of the application itself, and the ops team did not relate the poor performance of the database to the impacting on the application itself. So is this something that any of you have experienced before? Hands up. Oh, yes, I would think so. It's a very common scenario, unfortunately. All right, now let's see what we can do about this. What are the improvement initiatives that we came up with? Well, we actually identified that we have, overall, we need to understand our agile practices better. And that has to be like across the board. It cannot be one team with some priorities and another team with different priorities. One team with some a certain culture and the other team with different culture. So that is obviously creating a problem. Also, we need to understand the relevance of our ITIL processes. So how adequate are the processes for the current situation? And how are we using that to our benefit? And also, we need to understand how DevOps fits into this, if it does at all. So now, I'm not going to assume that you know all those three models. So I'm going to go over those models just a little bit. So here, let's have a look on Agile first. So Agile is a manifesto, and is based on 12 principles that you can see on the screen right now. So those principles, they help increase agility and success, okay, and deliver value. All right. Agile was first put together by developers and initially used by developers, but now is spread to the enterprise level as well. So the question is Agile enough for us? I don't think it is. Otherwise, we would not have this situation, this problem right now. So it sounds like we need a kind of strategic guidance on top of this as well. All right, then we have ITIL. It's a structured framework and certainly gives guidance and is based on a set of organizational capabilities to help us deliver value through service. The only thing is that ITIL is considered to be command and control and is very structured, probably a little bit more than we need. It certainly slows our progress right down. So the other thing is Agile followers, meaning the application teams, they don't comply with most of the ITIL processes. They do change in incident management because they have to, but otherwise they don't do any of the other processes, ITIL processes. The IT operations team, they do because they have high availability and security compliances, of course. Okay, then we have DevOps. So I'm not quite sure about how DevOps would help here or what DevOps actually is. Wink, wink. So DevOps is supposed to bridge Dev and Ops and improve the communication collaboration between the two somehow, and was also put together by developers and initially used by developers, but now also spread to the enterprise. So the DevOps handbook says that DevOps is a cultural movement based on human and technical interactions to improve relationship and results. What does that actually mean? So I thought that DevOps was about automation of software development. So how could this help us? In fact, how can these three models work together to help on the scenario itself? All right. So is that possible? Put your hand up if you think that DevOps, Agile, and ITIL have to work together or could work together. Hands up. I'll put both hands up because I'm pretty sure we can. I know we can. All right, so some of you think that it can be done. All right. So the only other question is, isn't DevOps supposed to replace ITIL? I have news for you. I don't think so. And the scenario proves that as well. We need a strategic guidance. We need a holistic approach for the service delivery. So in that case, we need both. And on top of that, we need Agile as well, the Agile culture to help us deliver more valuable services from a holistic point of view. Okay, so now here's the thing. Those three, they have some common beliefs. So for example, the three models, they agree that they deliver value to the stakeholder to facilitate their outcomes. And the three of them agree that we work towards delight the customer. So it's beyond customer satisfaction. Okay, pardon me. So the other thing is they also agree in the culture. So they agree on a proactive culture. They agree on collaboration, visibility, higher visibility. They also agree that we need to work with higher respect, and also they all have some kind of mechanism or method for continuous improvement. All right, so there are several areas that they agree on. In terms of the improvement, we actually there are so many things that we need to do, and we decided, okay, let's try to break that down into 3 areas of improvement in no specific order, okay? By the way, I forgot to mention that anything we talk about ITIL here, if it's not obvious to you yet, we are talking about ITIL version 3, not ITIL 4 yet, okay? So, because that's what they had. All right. So the 3 areas of improvement that we have identified is, first of all, we definitely need to plan our growth better. Secondly, we need to get dev and ops organized in a better way. And we also need to desperately look at our strategic goals. So let's have a look on what we found in each of those 3 areas. So under planning and growth, we're thinking at the understanding the new demands for services, and also address the budget situation. So we need some kind of budget that is going to help us with the way we run the business at the moment. Okay, so let's see how Agile, ITIL, and DevOps will help in each of those aspects there. So first of all, Agile. Agile obviously brings us the culture, and in that culture we have the education. So it's very obvious that we need to educate everybody, train everybody on whatever they need to know, whatever they need to increase their knowledge, the experience, to be productive, right? So, for example, the project manager not knowing how Agile actually works. So that has to be addressed immediately. And anyone else who needs education in Agile, ITIL, DevOps, or anything else, that needs to be addressed as soon as possible. The other thing is a roadmap. So obviously the priorities of the business is not aligned with the priority of the work that has been assigned, and so on. So we need some visibility, very clear visibility to a roadmap. And having visibility to the roadmap is going to help us with prioritization of work as well. Okay, so that's from Agile. What about ITIL? Very obvious that demand management needs to kick in. So we need to readdress the new demands and the business patterns, the activities as well. That leads me into capacity management. So we need to update our capacity plan for our services, starting with the most critical services, for example, the HR application. And also we need to take, the capacity plan should help us to have a holistic view of the service, not just dev, not just ops, but holistically. Also including the human capacity, not just dev and ops from hardware and software point of view, but from the human aspect as well. So that's another thing in Agile and DevOps as well. The human factor is very high, so we need to add that to our capacity plan as well. So doing that is going to help with availability management as well. The same kind of thing. We need to have an updated availability plan, because obviously, you know, the availability needs have changed. And also became very clear that incident management could have helped a lot with the availability success of the application during that scenario as well. So we need to find ways to shorten the incident resolution. Okay, then we come to service level management. So in that case, we have to look into the new requirements for service levels, and we need to make sure that we have more suitable service level objectives in SLAs. Okay, from a change management point of view, it's a matter of to make sure that we have as many standardized changes as possible to allow changes to go through, but successfully. So we need to increase the peer review to make sure that one individual doesn't work on these changes alone. So they actually have someone else looking over to make sure that they didn't miss anything. For example, oh, what if the database collapses? What's going to happen to the application? And also to delegate change approval to help changes to go through quicker but safer as well. So, and the other thing is the financial management. So to find a more flexible budget that suits the more agile structure that we are running with now, rather than satisfying the calendar itself. All right, so from the DevOps point of view, we have automation from early feedback. So for this part of the improvement, we are looking at early feedback, and also to look into the development pipeline, to look into which kind of automation we are using there, to make sure that helps and underpins the growth that we have. Lean, to identify and remove any source of waste. So we need to start looking at the service desk itself to make sure that we remove as much waste as possible from the service desk, meaning that activities that does not need to happen at the service desk, to make sure that they can actually work on customer satisfaction and help, especially in situations like this, a little bit more actively. Then we have Agile Service Management, which helps us to make sure that our service management activities, our ITIL processes, they are aligned with Agile. So make sure that we exercise control where control is needed, no more, no less. All right, so the second part of it is the organizing dev and ops to work together. So meaning that make sure that we have a common culture across the organization, doesn't matter where, dev, ops, anywhere, improve collaboration, have a sense of improvement where everybody's working towards improvement, and being more proactive. Our priorities, they have to incorporate that as well, align with that as well. So how does Agile help with this? This is like the Agile culture: collaboration, communication, prioritization, learning, all these very aligned with the Agile culture itself. Maybe we need to have a coach to come in and help everybody to understand the culture, the Agile culture, and how it's going to help us. The other thing is with frequent releases. The quicker we release something and we realize mistakes and opportunities for improvement, the more improvement we are going to be doing and quicker improvement we're going to have as well. So the other thing is to understand, everybody across the business understand that we need to welcome change. If we are going to remain competitive and we are going to underpin the growth, we need to welcome change. Change is a fact of life. It's not a surprise. So from the ITIL point of view, definitely look at the design. For example, design of the processes, the roles, the responsibilities. With the monitoring, for example, we are monitoring the database. Does the application need to be monitored? Who is going to be doing that? Who has that responsibility? Who has that accountability? Also to look from the design aspect in terms of common aspects of capacity, security, and the architectural design of the service to make sure it's all well aligned. The value stream is done holistically, not just here and there. Which brings me to service asset and configuration management, to make sure that configuration from any environment is visible and the relationships are documented there, so we can quickly see that if one component fails, which other services, other components and services will be impacted. So that will help with the monitoring in event management, so we can actually have better monitoring from the whole value stream, from end to end, for the whole service, not just hardware but software as well. And notification. So we do have the online dashboard for this kind of situation, and there was no notification there, so that definitely needs to be improved. From a problem management point of view, it's just so we have more, we have the, we all have prioritization on being proactive, being on the improvement in general. So look on the stability of the service overall. So on the how do you say, the backlog should have priorities not just on features but on proactive work as well, building capabilities there. So problem management can help a lot with that. Obviously, release management. So there was no test because there was no validation, concept of validation acceptance. So that needs to be reviewed too. And therefore, if we do have better release management, then prioritization and roadmap alignment is going to be much better as well. Now, very interestingly, from the DevOps point of view, we can definitely use ChatOps. So chat ops would help immensely to amplify that communication. So it would go to the whole development team much quicker than just a phone call and a ticket going through the system. So the incident could have been resolved quicker and avoiding even the problem. And any knowledge that is any knowledge that we enter on a chat ops can actually be captured, and we can actually put that on our knowledge system to increase our knowledge for future issues as well. So automation of monitoring, obviously something that could have happened better, and a smoother integration between the application and the on-premises infrastructure as well. Continuous testing is another DevOps principle that could have helped here immensely. So the last part of that is the strategic goals. So obviously they are not well communicated. We all have to have the same goal that has to be clear. Has to be clear to everybody, communicated all across the organization, not just in dev, not just in ops, but in financial, HR, and all levels of the organization. So from an ITIL perspective, from a strategic point of view, to make sure that we do have a strategic thinking from dev and ops, and a healthy relationship as well. So all the changes and releases, they are aligned from portfolio to the Scrum teams as well. Yeah, so DevOps supports that as well. So in conclusion, we cannot succeed alone. No, there is no silver bullet. There is no one framework that's going to do it. So we have to use whatever we can to help us deliver value through the services and excel on customer satisfaction. Also, we must not allow inertia. We have to have a culture of improvement, meaning that we improve, we consolidate, and repeat. Improve, consolidate, and repeat to give our customers delight. So this is my take on this. So I'll just show you my list again. This is my take on this. So can those three models work together? So I've shown you that, yes, they can work together and they should work together. It's just a matter of how we organize ourselves to make that work. So this brings me to the end of the presentation, and I'll open to questions now, and I ask Michael to have a look on questions, and I hope you have enjoyed it. Please give me some feedback as well, okay? So Michael, do we have questions?
Thank you, Rose, for that fantastic presentation. At the moment, we don't have any questions there. However, is there anyone here that would like to ask a question? Please use the Q&A panel down the bottom. I wouldn't mind kicking off with a question. When you were talking, did you mean Agile is used with ITIL, or is there an Agile service management framework that you were referring to?
There is actually a certified Agile service management, or Agile service manager, which is combining the two. It's one of the DevOps certifications, and it actually helps to understand how we're going to make our ITIL processes agile, and that facilitates the migration from ITIL version 3 to ITIL 4 as well. So it's a specific way to look into service management. So it's a specific way of doing that. Does that answer the question?
Yeah, that's great. Thank you.
Do we have
any other questions from anybody?
So on the screen, I have put together the courses that, obviously, we are an education company, so I have to educate you on which education to get. So the DevOps Foundation course is fantastic. Obviously, the ITIL course is very good as well. This scenario actually came up during the DevOps Foundation course. And we have other Agile courses as well, and the Agile Service Management, as I mentioned to you. But in the meantime, any other questions? Questions, comments, feedback, anything?
We have a question here from Anna. How important do you feel an organizational change manager is in Agile DevOps?
How important? Okay, so even though I have been working with ITIL for many, many years, right? So as a consultant, not just as an educator. And I have gone to many, many different organizations. And what happens is people implement ITIL with the command and control attitude. Therefore, it is quite strict. So now the CIO, the CEO, the CFO, or whoever, the strategic side of the organization is telling us we need to be agile. So the business agility side of things, how are we going to do that? So we have ITIL that is command and control. And then we have the organization saying we need to be agile. And on top of it, we have regulators around us, like with banks, for example, that we need to have security compliance and financial compliance with the public government bodies and so on. So I go a lot to Canberra to teach DevOps Foundation, and it's amazing how many organizations in Canberra are succeeding on the migration in the culture from command and control to agile. So organizational change is absolutely vital on this. As on the description of DevOps, is not a technological change only, is very much a cultural change. So this is something that we talk a lot on the DevOps Foundation, or if you want, you get the book, you have a look on the book. That's very good too, the handbook. I hope I answered the question.
We also have another question here from Michael. Are there any times when things just can't be managed in a DevOps scenario?
Oh, absolutely. I'm very happy in a way to hear more and more. I go to a lot of meetups and a lot of seminars and conferences in DevOps. I educated myself a lot on ITIL. I'm educating myself more and more on DevOps and Agile now. So testers are begging for more guidance and governance and somehow. The DevOps practitioners, they say, hang on a second, we need some process here. Yes, we do, but it's not the, it's like, making the processes fit for purpose. So it's to make sure that the ITIL processes are fit for purpose. In ITIL 4, you're going to see more of that, but you don't throw away your ITIL version 3. You need to make your ITIL version 3 processes and everything you learn from it fit for purpose, meaning that more agile. I hope I answered.
Perfect. Thank you, Rose. We don't have any other questions at this point. While we wait for any other additional questions, obviously the slide that we have left it on there is we do have a special offer on at the moment, which is around DevOps and our course offering there with bundled offers for discounts for those that are interested. Obviously, contact your account manager, or you can obviously make an inquiry on our website.
If you want a copy of this presentation or the PDF even, you can contact DDLS and we can send you a copy as well. And by all means, I'm on LinkedIn, as you probably know. Drop a question anytime you want. I love a conversation there.
Well, if that's all, I think all of the questions have been answered. We will definitely send a link to the recording of the event. If you want more information on our DevOps ITIL or Agile course offering, please do visit our website. And on behalf of DDLS, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, everybody. See you later.
Cheers.